This is Whisper from History, where forgotten voices rise again. July 1952. The night sky over Washington, D.C. looked unlike any other. On the radar screens, strange signals appeared, signals that didn't belong to this world. What were they? Whatever they were, they shook not just America, but the entire world. If you missed our 32-episode Season 1, Dark History, watch the full playlist on our channel. The summer of 1952 was thick with heat, the kind that made the air shimmer above the asphalt streets of Washington, D.C. It was July, a season of restless nights and rumbling skies, but on one of those nights, the thunder never came. Instead, something else filled the heavens, something that would shake America to its core. At 11:40 p.m. on July 19, 1952, inside the National Airport's air traffic control tower, radar operator Edward Nugent was staring at his scope. The green glow of the circular screen pulsed softly in the dimly lit room. He had been tracking regular commercial flights, nothing unusual, until a cluster of bright blips suddenly appeared out of nowhere, hovering just 15 miles southwest of the city. He frowned. These weren't planes. They weren't moving like any aircraft he'd ever seen. "Hey, Charlie, come take a look at this," Nugent called out. Senior Controller Harry Barnes stepped forward, his cigarette dangling at the corner of his mouth. He leaned in, squinting. The blips started fast, erratic, and then froze. Then, in an instant, they shot across the screen at unbelievable speed, crossing the entire scope in seconds. Barnes muttered under his breath, "That's impossible. Nothing moves that fast." Within minutes, other radar stations, Andrews Air Force Base, just outside the city, confirmed it. Unidentified objects. Multiple, some hovering, others shooting away like bolts of light. Controllers at Andrews reported seeing 7 unknowns. Meanwhile, a pilot from Capital Airlines Flight 807, flying nearby, radioed in, "I see some lights, moving fast. They're not aircraft." One just shot straight up. The reports multiplied, from airmen, from tower operators, from civilians standing on rooftops in the sweltering night air. The sky over Washington was alive with strange lights. By midnight, the phone lines at the Pentagon were lit up. Air Force intelligence scrambled jets from Newcastle Air Force Base in Delaware F-9 for starfires to intercept. But by the time the fighters reached Washington airspace, the objects were gone. Vanished as if they'd never been there. The radar screens went silent. Controllers relaxed, exhaled, convinced it was over. Then, minutes after the jets turned back, the blips returned. This time, they surrounded the Capitol building, the White House, and even the Pentagon itself. Blips circling the symbols of American power, silent, watching. 4 hours. Radar operators tracked what they later described as intelligently controlled craft. The movement wasn't random. The objects seemed to respond, to react when pursued, and vanish when intercepted. "It's like they knew we were coming," one operator said later. By dawn, the lights faded into the horizon, leaving behind only the echo of questions. The next morning, July 20th, 1952, headlines screamed across the nation. Flying saucers over Washington, D.C. Jets chase UFOs over Capitol. The country, still reeling from Cold War paranoia, was thrown into a frenzy. Was it the Soviets? A secret American weapon? Or something else entirely? At Project Blue Book headquarters in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, the phones didn't stop ringing. Blue Book was the Air Force's official UFO investigation unit, a small team tasked with explaining the unexplainable. Major Edward J. Ruppelt, the head of the project, later recalled the chaos. Reports were flooding in faster than they could catalog them. Witnesses from every walk of life, pilots, police, air traffic controllers, and every story, eerily consistent. Bright, glowing lights, capable of impossible speed, and always disappearing before anyone could catch them. Ruppelt flew to Washington himself, determined to make sense of it all. But when he arrived, he found something strange. No one wanted to talk. Military radar data was suddenly classified. Witnesses were told to keep quiet. Something or someone had ordered a lid on the whole thing. And then, it happened again. 1 week later, on the night of July 26, 1952, Washington, D.C. lit up once more. Radar screens at both National Airport and Andrews Air Force Base erupted with unknown targets, this time more numerous and more active than before. Airmen at Andrews reported seeing red, orange, and white lights moving across the sky, sometimes stopping in mid-air, then shooting off in right-angles motions no aircraft could make. Commercial pilots reported the same. One said, "They looked like falling stars, except they stopped and then climbed back up again." Panic began to stir. The control room at National Airport was packed. Military observers, intelligence officers, even reporters were there this time. Everyone staring at the radar scope that glowed like a Christmas tree gone mad. Once again, fighter jets were scrambled. 2 F-94s roared into the night sky. As they approached the Capitol, the radar screens showed the unknown objects scattering. Pilot Lieutenant William Patterson tried to make visual contact. Suddenly, 4 bright lights appeared, one on each side of his jet surrounding him. "They're all around me," Patterson radioed. "I can't get away from them." And then, the lights vanished. His radar was blank. The sky, silent. Back on the ground, the control tower could still see the blips. They were watching him, tracking him. But for Patterson, it was as if the sky had swallowed them whole. When the jets landed, the radar again went quiet. And when they returned to base, the lights came back. The same eerie pattern, almost playful, as if toying with the U.S. Air Force. By dawn, hundreds had witnessed the phenomenon, not just in D.C., but across nearby states. The Washington National Radar incident became the most publicized UFO sighting in American history. At this point, the military couldn't stay silent. Public panic was spreading. Rumors of alien visitors were on every radio, every newspaper, every living room conversation in America. So the Air Force called a press conference, the largest since the end of World War II. On July 29, 1952, Major General John Samford, head of Air Force Intelligence, faced the cameras. Flanked by officers and stacks of official reports, he addressed the nation. "We have received and analyzed reports of unidentified aerial phenomena. There is no evidence these sightings are from outer space, or that they pose a threat to national security." He paused carefully. "Most can be explained by natural causes, temperature inversions, reflections, meteorological conditions." The press scribbled notes, but many in the room weren't convinced. Temperature inversion, it became the official explanation. The idea was that warm air trapped above cool air could bend radar signals, making ground lights or distant planes appear to hover in the sky. Convenient, scientific, and tidy enough to calm the public, but behind closed doors even the experts weren't sure. Radar specialists argued that the objects were solid returns, not mirages. They moved in intelligent patterns, they responded to aircraft. Temperature inversion couldn't explain that. Harry Barnes, the controller who first tracked them, told reporters, "I've been handling radar for years. These were real, structured objects. No weather anomaly acts like that." Still, the government stuck to its story. The official record closed, but the whispers didn't. Across the country, citizens began reporting similar lights in the weeks that followed. From Ohio to New York, strange orbs darted through the night sky. Some said the objects emitted a low hum, Others swore they moved in formation, as if under command. And in the halls of the Pentagon, behind the thin curtain of official denial, a quiet panic lingered. Because the truth was simple, they didn't know what had happened. Internal memos later revealed that intelligence officers were divided. Some suspected advanced Soviet aircraft far beyond anything the US possessed. Others believed the technology was not of this world. One declassified CIA document from that summer admitted, "These sightings are credible. They represent objects of unknown origin, and the implications, if confirmed, are of national significance." But what was really happening behind the curtain? To understand, we need to step back to the world of 1952. America was deep in the Cold War. The Korean War was raging overseas. At home, McCarthyism was at its peak. Suspicion and paranoia ran through every corridor of power. UFO hysteria wasn't just a curiosity, it was a threat to control. Each sighting meant panic, speculation, and public distrust in the government's ability to defend its skies. Behind the scenes, the CIA convened a secret panel, later known as the Robertson Panel, to study the phenomenon. Their conclusion: the sightings themselves weren't dangerous, but the belief in them was. They recommended an aggressive public campaign to debunk UFO reports, to ridicule the subject, and to discourage citizens and the press from taking it seriously. The era of official UFO denial had begun. Still, witnesses never changed their stories. Airline pilot Captain S.C. Pierman stood by his account until his death. Radar operators testified, under oath, that the objects they saw were real, structured, and intelligently controlled. Major Ruppelt, the man who led Project Blue Book, later wrote in his book, "The report on unidentified flying objects, no one could explain what we saw over Washington that night." The Air Force explanation was made to satisfy public curiosity, didn't satisfy meat kites. Later, in the archives of declassified government documents, a quiet truth began to emerge. The Air Force, despite its denials, had been deeply alarmed. Internal memos revealed that President Harry S. Truman was briefed about the incidents. He demanded answers from the Air Force Chief of Staff General Hoyt Vandenberg, but even he couldn't explain it. No radar malfunction, no known aircraft in the area, and no plausible natural cause. One report read, simply unknown aerial objects. Multiple sightings, radar, and visual confirmation. Unresolved in the years that followed, the Washington UFO incident faded from headlines. Buried under new wars, new fears, and new distractions. Project Blue Book continued until 1969, explaining away thousands of cases, but never this one. Even in the final Blue Book summary, the Washington events of 1952 remained unidentified. This day, historians, researchers, and former military personnel still debate what truly happened over the Capitol. That summer, some say it was experimental technology, secretly tested and disguised. Others insist it was extraterrestrial. A few believe it was a mix, a Cold War cover for something even stranger. What's undeniable is the legacy it left behind. The Washington, D.C. UFO incident changed everything. It turned flying saucers from pulp fiction into front-page reality. It forced the government to confront and conceal phenomena it couldn't explain, and it opened a chapter of American history defined by secrecy, denial, and the endless question of what might be watching us from above. Late at night, if you walk near the Potomac River, the city lights reflecting on the dark water, you can still see the Capitol dome glowing white against the sky. It's hard to imagine that once, right above that dome, strange lights danced silently through the summer heat, mocking the might of a superpower. The official reports say they were illusions, but the men who saw them, who tracked them, who chased them, never forgot what they witnessed. Radar screens don't hallucinate. Pilots don't dream in formation. And sometimes the sky remembers things. Even when history tries to forget, that night may have passed, but the questions it left behind never did. Some mysteries are beyond human understanding, or maybe they were never meant for us at all, even today. When lightning flashes over the skies of Washington, people whisper only one line, maybe. They've come back. If you enjoy our stories, make sure to subscribe and explore our playlist for more unsolved mysteries from the shadows of history.